Ah, that's right. I'm talking about Outbreak again. Why? Because it's so damn good, it deserves it. With the recent confirmation that not only is Capcom remaking another RE game, but they're gonna keep remaking them. It's time to let our dreams take the wheel. Okay, so the next game is gonna be RE5. And if we ever do get a non-mainline Resident Evil remake, Code Veronica is def first on that particular shortlist.
Welcome, Claire.
But let's pretend we live in a world where good things happen to me. Here's what makes Outbreak so special and why it deserves a reimagining in today's online multiplayer climate. Today, we take a lot for granted when it comes to online multiplayer, but travel back with me, if you will, to the dark, dirty Wild West of 2003 internet speeds. In a time where online console multiplayer consisted of SOCOM US Navy SEALs and... yeah. Capcom dared to give us a classic, cooperative, immersive, slow, creepy, insanely difficult look into what it must have been like to live through the nightmare that was 1998 Raccoon City. Now, picture a game unlike anything that had ever been conceived. You and three strangers are thrust into chaos. Zombies everywhere, nothing but brooms, kitchen knives, and that sweet, sweet Kentucky bourbon to aid you. The front door is a no-go, so work together and escape. Players had to find keys, solve puzzles, and hold off against hordes of unkillable creatures. This was honestly co-op on a scale that we had never seen before. It felt like a classic RE, but shared with real people. It was hectic, it was tense, it was nigh impossible, but that's just like it would be. It really did need to be played to be understood. It's not hyperbole when I say we really hadn't seen anything like this before. Now, ambiance and storytelling are one thing, but let's dive into some of the super cool gameplay features that were so awesome and quite honestly ahead of their time. Though somewhat standard now, and if I'm looking back, a little archaic, Outbreak's online inventory management system gave players the unprecedented ability to combine, trade, and create items in real time. The action never stopped, and why would it? If something needed to be done, it needed to be done on the fly, panic of a zombie onslaught and all. While your ragtag team was figuring out what the best course of action was, cooler heads had to prevail. Hold doors closed, create barricades, cut off points of entry, shoot open locked doors, hide under beds, take refuge in empty lockers, craft new weapons. The possibilities seemed endless, and above all, real. This was awesome. Not only did you get to experience all this, but Outbreak let you experience all this chaos in so many different ways, with 8 fully voice-acted, completely unique characters, each with their own unique skills, items, weapons, and abilities. Not to break down every character, because honestly that could be its own video. Some of the things you're looking at are different weapons for different characters, the ability to create items out of things you find around the environment, the ability to create healing items, the ability to heal your friends or yourself, carrying extra items, pushing heavy things when some characters couldn't do it, the ability to cower in the corner like a little baby so no enemies hit you. The possibilities were honestly endless. There were so many different ways to play and so many different setups you could have with different characters, especially online, that it really provided an experience that was unlike any other. In addition to these unique loadouts that each character gets, you also come equipped with an active skill that no one else can do. So that could range from anything like a kick to keep enemies away, a dodge, lying down on the ground to avoid enemies, or even throwing a wrench in zombies' faces. And on top of all that, you also had access to this plethora of NPC characters that you could use, and it'll just make your head spin. That leads me to my next point. Today, cosmetics are the standard in so many online games. In a world of DLC, paid in-game currency, and seasons passes, they aren't going anywhere. Love it or hate it, people are willing to buy this shit. Enter Outbreak. It's ready to go. You got countless costumes, characters, game modes, movies, concept art, you name it. The game is ripe for Capcom's greedy picking. Even a simple modern port would be set up to take our money. I mean, people bought the Battle Pass for Resident Evil Reverse. Think about that. Not me though. Nope, definitely not me. Shut up. Now, as much as those edgelords on Reddit like to complain, this is what games do now. And it's an important thing to mention because, and I can't stress this enough, no company is remaking anything if it's not financially viable. 10,000 screaming Outbreak diehard loyalists, citation needed, can be as loud as they want, but if no one's willing to pay for anything, it's not going to happen. Gimme, gimme, gimme is not a reason, folks. So with all that being said, if the planets align and we actually do get an Outbreak reimagining, what can we expect? First and foremost, say it with me, manage those expectations. Internet culture is in a place where if people don't get exactly what they want, all shit hits the fan. Dead game, wow, Capcom. The usual. It's going to be different, ladies and gentlemen. However, in my humble opinion, here are a few things Capcom should change, add, and improve. Number one with a bullet are the load times. They were unbelievably abysmal. And a lot of people might say, well, you know, TG, that was really a product of its time. But think back, was it? Was it really? Because we're talking about 15 to 20 second load times every single time you go through a door. It was absolutely inexcusable. And a lot of people might not remember because if you play the game today, chances are you're playing on the RE Outbreak Resurrection servers and you have quick loading and all that good stuff. And it makes it pretty much a non-issue. And quite honestly, this needs to be the thing that Capcom fixes immediately. And I think if we do get a reimagining, they will, because this in no small part contributed to Resident Evil Outbreak not being successful in the first place. Number two is the inclusion of more iconic Resident Evil locations. So we got a few. We got the Nest Lab, we got RE2's RPD, but other than that, it was all unique stuff. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It was great to see the Raccoon Zoo and stuff like that, but fans want to see things that we recognize. Stuff like the streets of Raccoon like we see in RE3, or somewhere up in the Arclay Mountains, maybe even ending with our characters running towards a mansion? Who knows? Perhaps the train, or even the training center from RE0, stuff like that. Having places that fans recognize not only makes them cream, but it also adds to the longevity of the game. Just think about how excited people get whenever you see things like the crossover of Resident Evil into Dead by Daylight. People were so hyped to play that crappy game in the RPD. Number three is the introduction and expansion of character builds. So add things like tech trees, swappable abilities, even character classes. Because if there's one thing that players love, it's progression and customization, especially when it comes to online games. Having a way to uniquely attack a scenario that's unlike any other player that you're playing with, it really gives you a sense of pride, and it really makes you enjoy the game for a much, much longer time. It's probably one of the most important things whenever talking about longevity. Number four is the expansion of the virus system. Now, back in 2003, it was pretty basic, and by basic I mean just when you die you turn into a zombie online, and quite frankly that's all it had to be, because for the time it was super cool just that it was even in the game. But change it up a little and modernize it, if you will. Make turning into a zombie more depthful. You have more options, you survive longer, etc. Number five is expanding the multiple scenario paths. Add different endings, have more interactable environments, different things that you can do that makes each game a little different than the last. That can add a lot to longevity and overall enjoyment, in my opinion. Instead of having the point of a scenario be just to get to the end, have branching paths, having different places to escape to, have different interactions with NPCs or other characters dictate what happens at the end of the scenario. Number six is peppering in just a little bit more fan service. Show us some more Resident Evil enemies that we love. The Chimera, Birkin, Crimson Heads, which would just be the most terrifying thing in the world, Pale Heads, all those things that we've seen in the Resident Evil remakes and games like Resistance, etc. Number seven is a really important one. Update the controls. Now look, I love tank controls more than any sane and rational man should, but the time has passed, especially in the climate of online multiplayer today. Switch things up, make it the RE4 style, or at the very least, do full 2D movement so you have more control over your character. And on top of all that, the inventory management was a little bit cumbersome, as well as the ad-lib system, which you can basically just get rid of if you add voice chat, which you probably should have done in the first place. But just modernizing the game will add to its longevity, and it'll make people more eager to play it, because whenever you see your characters walking around in those tank controls, it just, you feel dirty. You feel dirty, and you should. Number 8 is more of a wish than it is a need, but add different modes. Outbreak File 2 already had the Elimination and Showdown, which were kind of craptacular, but if you change things up, maybe add like a Battle Royale to the style of Back 4 Blood, not like Reverse. Zombies versus Survivors, something like that, where you don't need it, but it would be nice to have a little extra bulk in the game to keep you playing longer. And finally, number 9, I saved the best for last. The most important thing is this has to be a live service game, and it needs dedicated servers. No more of this peer-to-peer shit. That is a huge reason why Resistance failed. It's a huge, but not the only reason why Reverse failed. And really, it is the standard today. There is no way you can crap out a multiplayer game and not have it with dedicated servers. I know Capcom's a little scared to dip their toes into multiplayer because they keep failing, but it's a catch-22 because it keeps failing because they don't put these things into the game that games need to survive. So in closing, ladies and gents, however unlikely, a remake or reimagining of Resident Evil Outbreak would be an absolute dream come true for myself and countless other RE fans. When you look at pillars of the RE content creation community like Ink Ribbon, Residents of Evil, and the Sphere Hunter, it's clear that love of Outbreak, it's out there. And interest from the fanbase is quite strong. But it's a two-way street. Capcom needs to do things right. They are thirsty for this multiplayer success, but they don't want to invest. Resistance and Reverse are proof of that. But remember, we need to let Capcom know that we love and want Outbreak. Be loud, be everywhere, fill out those little surveys that Capcom loves so much, and check out the link below because I'm starting a petition at change.org to make Capcom hear us. As always, guys, I'm TG. If you like what you saw, you know what to do.